I got into my car and drove away, leaving Molly behind. She was probably sitting there, overwhelmed with confusion and anxiety, her mind racing with countless questions about everything that had just transpired. I understood how difficult it must have been for her to process all of this, but I couldn't remain. The weight of the truth I now carried pressed heavily upon me. Yet tonight wasn't about confronting her or untangling the mess. It was about taking the first genuine step toward rebuilding my life, one where she no longer had a place. As I drove, the cool night air and the steady hum of the engine became a quiet backdrop to my swirling thoughts. I needed to find a semblance of peace, a way to move beyond this nightmare. When I reached Gabriel's house, the soft glow of the porch light offered a small sense of comfort. The familiar aroma of freshly baked lasagna wafted through the air, reminding me of the warm, cozy atmosphere Gabriel and Rose always cultivated. They greeted me with genuine warmth, their faces lighting up as I stepped out of the car. Still, I could tell they sensed the tension in my posture. Gabriel clapped a hand on my shoulder in his usual cheerful manner. "Good to see you, Mason. Come on in. Make yourself at home," he said, his voice warm but tinged with concern. Rose stepped forward, her gentle smile radiating understanding. Her expression spoke volumes. It was clear she knew I wasn't there for casual conversation. "You look like you've had a rough few days," she said softly, her soothing voice offering comfort. "Come sit. Let's get you something to eat." Their kindness was so genuine and disarming that, for a moment, I almost forgot what had just unfolded. I followed them inside, trying to push thoughts of Molly and her betrayal to the back of my mind, even if only for a while. Over dinner, I made an effort to keep the conversation light. I focused on work, expressing interest in joining Gabriel's team and asking about his vision for its future. But as the evening wore on, maintaining the facade became harder. The emotions swirling inside me were too intense to suppress, and Rose, ever perceptive, noticed the shift in my mood. She leaned in, her voice gentle but insistent. "Mason, you don't have to share anything you're not ready to, but if you want to talk, we're here for you." I paused, the weight of my secret suffocating me. I had been holding it in for days, weeks even, and tonight it felt like it was on the verge of bursting. With a heavy sigh, I set my fork down, the clink of metal against the plate breaking the otherwise comfortable silence. "It's Molly," I confessed, the words slipping out like a burden released. "She's been unfaithful. Not just once, but with multiple people." Gabriel froze mid-bite, his eyes widening in shock. His fork hovered in midair as his expression shifted from concern to disbelief. "Mason, I'm so sorry," he said quietly, his voice laden with sympathy. "That's just awful." Rose reached across the table, placing a comforting hand over mine. "I can't imagine how painful this must be for you," she said softly, her voice filled with empathy. I swallowed hard, struggling to maintain my composure. "It's worse than that," I continued, my voice trembling. "It's with Brad, my boss, and a few of his friends, including his son. I have proof, but knowing it, seeing it, it's unbearable." Gabriel's face darkened at the mention of Brad's name. "Brad? I can't believe he'd stoop so low," he muttered, anger flickering in his eyes. Rose leaned forward, her gaze softening even more. "Do you have anyone else to talk to, Mason? A support system beyond us?" I shook my head, the feeling of isolation intensifying with every word. "Not really. That's one of the reasons I came here tonight. I needed to confide in someone who might truly grasp what I'm enduring." Gabriel's voice was firm and reassuring. "You've got a spot on my team, Mason. We'll get everything arranged as soon as you're ready," Rose added with a gentle smile. "And if you ever need someone to talk to, whether a professional or just a friend, I can help you find the right person. We're here for you." Their unwavering support felt like a lifeline, something I hadn't even realized I was desperately craving. For the first time, the void within me became clear, and I understood I didn't have to confront this alone. As the evening progressed, We discussed the logistics of my transition to a new job and strategies to handle the fallout from my crumbling marriage. The weight of it all still bore down on me. But amidst the darkness, a faint glimmer of hope began to emerge. The path ahead was uncertain. Yet for the first time in what felt like an eternity, I believed there could be a way forward. Returning home, the house was eerily silent. Molly was already in bed, and the stillness enveloped me like a suffocating blanket. I lingered in the living room, scanning the familiar surroundings, haunted by the remnants of a life we once shared. How had it all unraveled so completely? Eventually, I settled on the futon, staring at the ceiling as the darkness mirrored the heaviness in my chest. The difficult conversations loomed ahead, and I knew I had to steel myself for what was to come. The next day, I confronted Molly, presenting the undeniable proof of her infidelity. "Is this what you wanted?" I demanded, my tone cold and cutting. "Brad's not the only one, is he? His son, his friends, complete strangers. Did they take advantage of you, or did you willingly dive into this chaos?" Her expression crumbled as tears streamed down her face. "I don't know how it got this far," she whispered, her voice trembling with remorse. "It started with Brad, but it spiraled out of control. I felt trapped, ashamed. I didn't know how to face you. Trapped," I repeated, my frustration boiling over. "You weren't trapped, Molly. You made choices, every single one of them a betrayal. Betrayal of me, of us. You let this spiral. And now you want to paint yourself as the victim?" She sobbed, burying her face in her hands. "I know I messed up, Mason. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I still love you." I slammed my hand down on the table, the sharp sound cutting through her cries. "Don't you dare say you love me," I hissed. "You don't destroy someone you love. You don't humiliate them, shatter their trust, and wreck their life. Love, you abandoned at the moment you chose Brad over me." Her sobs filled the silence that followed, and I took a deep, steadying breath. My voice softened, yet remained resolute. "It's over, Molly. There's no salvaging this. I'll file for divorce, and there's nothing left to discuss." Her head hung low, her voice barely audible. "What do you want me to do?" "You'll pack your belongings and leave before the papers are filed," I stated firmly. "You'll stay out of my life, away from me and this house. You wanted Brad and his circus? Go ahead. You're free to join them." Her shoulders quaked under the weight of my words. "I'll leave tomorrow," she whispered. I stood, unable to look her in the eye any longer. "Good. The sooner, the better." Without another word, I left the room, leaving her to face the consequences of her choices. Upstairs, I sat on the edge of the bed, gazing out the window. The full magnitude of the situation hit me with overwhelming force. My marriage was over, my trust obliterated, and the woman I once envisioned a lifetime with had become a stranger. Yet as the night wore on, something unexpected stirred within me, a flicker of relief. I had made my decision. I had reclaimed control. The path ahead was shrouded in uncertainty, but for the first time in weeks, I felt clarity. Tomorrow, I would move forward without Molly, without Brad, without their treachery. It was time to rebuild, and this time, I would do so on my terms. The aftermath of my marriage had been a storm of lies, heartbreak, and devastation. But as the dust settled, I realized I was stepping into a new chapter. Molly's chaotic choices had not only destroyed our marriage, but also left Brad and Matt entangled in her web of deceit. Their actions had ruined lives, but forgiveness and letting go weren't about them. They were for me. They were my path to peace. At Empire, work became a welcome distraction, offering a stability I hadn't felt in months. Gabriel became an invaluable mentor, guiding me through my new role, while Rose's counseling sessions helped me rediscover pieces of myself I thought were lost forever. I embraced fitness, joined a martial arts class, and reignited old passions, slowly piecing myself back together. When Tracy invited me out for happy hour one evening, I hesitated. After everything I'd been through, the idea of putting myself out there felt foreign. But I knew clinging to the past wouldn't build the future I wanted. So I agreed. That night at Hitchhikers, I found myself laughing with Tracy and the team, savoring drinks and the uncomplicated joy of good company. There was no tension, no deceit, just light-hearted fun. In the weeks that followed, Tracy and I spent more time together. Initially, it was casual coffee breaks, team lunches, and after-work drinks. But there was something about her warmth and kindness that drew me in. She never pried into my past, though I knew she was aware of it. Instead, she treated me like Mason, a man worth getting to know. One evening, after we both stayed late at the office, Tracy stopped by my desk. "Want to grab dinner?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with friendliness. I nodded, feeling something stir within me, something I hadn't felt in a long time. "Yes, I'd like that." As we walked out together, I realized I was finally ready to embrace new possibilities. Life had tested me in unimaginable ways, but I was still standing, still moving forward. Tracy wasn't a replacement for Molly or anyone else. She was simply someone who made me feel hopeful again. And for now, that was more than enough.